It's really weird speaking and not hearing any feedback, but I'm going to try and make this as less boring as possible, but there are some slides, so I apologise in advance. So I'm Keith Bedford. I'm GM for EMEA, running the European business across 3 different sections of the business. Basically, if you've ever seen streaming TV in the UK or around the world, Wurl have been involved somewhere. So we started life out working for the content brands, building channels and distributing their channels to all the platforms that Paul has just talked about, including Tubi, including Samsung, LG. So you've definitely seen us, although you've never probably heard of who Wurl are. So the 3 areas we're really going to cover is how brands are launching with new content, how tier 1 content is coming very prominent in the US, and we're beginning to see that rise in the UK, how ads are working, how the US is working. I'm in a great position where I can see the US market, see where the growth is there, and see where the potential growth is coming in Europe. So Wurl are part of a company called AppLovin. AppLovin are our owners, and they are one of the leading brands in performance marketing on mobile. We really have just become, working with them, we're a trusted SSP for them. They have their own app discovery content, which is available, ads, which is available in the US. This is something we're going to bring to Europe when the market's right. The difference between, obviously, US, as we'll see in a second, is the market's so much bigger. Paul earlier talked about attribution and the growth and how we get feedback. This is happening in the US. We can see all the streamers for our ads. We can see IP addresses, and we can therefore help with attribution. But it's still early days in CTV, something that mobile has cracked. So where are we right now? This is a global view of the CTV market. And we can see that it was 12 billion in 2020, and it is growing, obviously, at a good rate. This includes, obviously, US data. Right now, we're looking at, last year was about 25 billion, and we're looking at growth to about 32 billion this year. But as I say, this is a market that is continually growing. We do see the forecast being somewhere around 42 billion. Now, obviously, there's differences, and ad-supported television has been around for a long, long time. Obviously, what Paul was talking about in his presentation is about streaming. We have the ability to see lots more data than we did in the linear world. The linear world I used to come from, I worked in it for many years. Obviously, we're based on barb ratings in the UK for how do we get some feedback on how the viewership's going. And coming from the scheduling side, that's always very difficult when it's only 6,000 homes. One of the things with the data is that we can see more. And I think one of the conversations that we could have for a long time is how some of these brands, like Samsung and everyone else, get together and start sharing data. That is beginning to happen. One of our major agencies right now is doing a self-serve system for SMEs that can go directly into this. So the opportunity is growing, and so is the ability to get ads. So really, I'm going to start how Wurl started, which was delivering fast channels. And we can see that there are channels growing. I mean, at the moment, we do over 4,000 streams, but there's 1,650 channels right now across the globe. The majority of those are in the US, but as you can see, everything is growing. US is growing. One of the reasons it's growing, and it was good to hear some of the feedback earlier from the panel, is there's definitely tier 1 content coming through. Some of the brands that we work with in the US, BBC's, A&E, we can see content from AMC coming through. So all the major brands are looking to put content into streaming television, and fast. They're all building fast strategies. And as the slides go on, I have a slide from A&E, who's one of our clients. But certainly, I think the growth we're seeing right now in Europe is in the UK and Germany. We're seeing very, very strong channel brands launching in these countries. Certainly, some of the largest PSBs that we see are launching channels within Germany, and I think that will follow across the globe. So it's a very exciting market to be involved in right now, and there's definitely growth coming. So the fast market, as I said earlier, US at this moment in time is 1,189 channels. UK currently is 153, Germany is 109, and Canada is 85. But as I keep saying, we're seeing these tier one content brands launching. We're working with people like FIFA. We're seeing a change in the sports brands. Just this week, Rugby Pass TV, was launched on Samsung, which is just showing how brands are now looking to go direct to consumer, not just through social media, but through FAST and through streaming television. So certainly, I can see there's going to be a growth in these channels. I do think that some of the platforms where they used to have some restrictions on how many channel brands they can run is changing. I think this shit is all around how content discovery works. I mean, obviously, where you have more channels, it's harder for the consumer to find that content. So it's only going to get better with things that we're doing around content discovery. So all of these factors are going to help channel brands grow and production companies to launch lots more content within the industry. So what are the challenges in Europe? Compared to the US, there's quite a few challenges, in fairness. I mean, one of the things is the US has grown through cord cutting. They don't have the same similarities for PSBs and free-to-air channels. So PSBs don't really exist in the US. So the growth there for cord cutting has definitely grown, as opposed to if we look at the UK Germany market, it's all flooded by PSBs. A lot of those channels are still from the mainstream, from BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5. But that is changing. Those brands are all looking to launch fast channels internationally. So, TV is still expensive if we're buying it through subscription based, but obviously what Samsungs and the LGs are offering is free devices. Sorry, not free devices, I wish they were. They're offering free-to-air television via streaming. And as I said, with the more content getting better, the proposition for those TVs is getting higher and higher. And as I mentioned earlier, US currently definitely has more tier one content. But as we've seen recently, Sky have launched some fast channels in the marketplace via Zumo platform. So they're definitely looking also to distribute those channels outside of the Sky platform. So there's definitely growth in those areas there. As I mentioned, fast carries little premium content in Europe, but that is changing. I also run the team looking after launching new channels, and we're certainly dealing with some major tier one broadcasters across Europe, which is great. Then we get onto some of the bigger challenges around Europe. When I speak to my peers in the US, and it's very easy for them to launch a channel to 350 million devices in the US, which is pretty straightforward. Here we have 51 different countries, 26 languages potentially, rights battles, legal, and this lovely thing called GDPR. So it is a different minefield. We do have to navigate it carefully around, privacy laws. Very much part of our strategy is to work with our streamers to get over some of those privacy laws. And also, content is in English mainly coming from the US. We need to be able to translate that into many different languages. And it's not straightforward. I wish it was, because every streamer has a different way of doing subtitling and languaging. So it's really just about us working with our partners to make that lift as easy as possible to be able to translate content into different cultures. So overall, we are challenged in Europe. It is going to get easier. There are things we can do around consent, etc. It's just about a matter of working with all of our European partners to overcome some of that. Now, as I said earlier, I know I wasn't supposed to do a sales pitch, but it really isn't. I think what this is showing is that some of our premium partners around A&E networks are really looking at how streaming television could grow their business. They're obviously getting less ad revenue from traditional outlets, so it's still good and it should be there for a few years, but they certainly are looking at how they can make money through programmatic and through streaming. So they have a group of head of FAST. He made a great comment about working with Wurl, For him, he can send us a channel. We can distribute it globally to over 50 streamers. So it's an easy lift for the content partners. Okay. So really, just to sort of wrap up, certainly what we are seeing is more inventory. I mean, if I think about the US right now, we're seeing about 80 billion monthly opportunities a month in ads, which is massive. I would say that, that we're a slightly lower percentage in Europe, but that growth is going to come. So, definitely more and more introvert. What we are doing with Wurl is we are working with all the streamers. So it's about us, helping get ads into multiple streamers through single product called AdPool. Streamer adoption. Certainly, if I look in the UK, Virgin have recently launched the fast service. As I mentioned, Sky have gone to fast as well, and obviously, BVOD is massively successful. ITVX, iPlayer, etc. So, we're all watching streaming now, and we're all going to be potentially changing our devices to all streaming. And I've had Sky Glass for a number of years, and obviously that's via streaming. I think coming on to the subject which Paul covered in his panel in depth, which is about better data and scale. I mean, I think if there's any feedback from our industry right now is how do we get better data? And it is frustrating. There is the means to get in the beta, but it's just about working with our partners to make sure the data is being shared in the right places, with the right brands, with the right agencies. And I think there is common goal to get that data model right. For us as a business, obviously our main focus is how do we do performance marketing in CTV? As I said earlier, AppLovin are very successful in the mobile, but it is easier in a way because it's all within a single device. We are talking about multiple devices across multiple platforms. So fragmentation is still there. It is a hurdle, but I think the more and more we work together with partners, this is something we can overcome. I think the next phase we're really going to see is new content formats. And what I mean by this is, what are Samsung's, LG's going to do about YouTube? I mean, YouTube is a very successful video platform, as we know. It's also driving high levels of short form content to long form. So I can really see some room in the market for launching products around content discovery, around short form, linking to long form content. I think one of the major problems we all have every single night when we sit down to try and watch TV is, how do we find something to watch? Which seems crazy considering how much content there is. We just need better ways of finding content. It needs to be personalized. It needs to know what you're watching on your device. It needs to know what you like watching, and a better recommendation system across multiple streamers is needed. So hopefully that we'll see that coming. That's only going to lead to better advertising opportunities. Obviously, one of the big subjects is targeting. Obviously, geo-targeting can be done now. But obviously, our goal as a business is try and look at how can we create an attribution model so you can get a return on your ad spend. I mean, I think that is one of our largest goals as a business. And all of these new things that are happening around new formats, content discovery, is certainly going to enable things like attribution. Thank you very much. I think I'm just about on time.